Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlossberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Welcome to a very, very special Cloudcast Media fusion podcast. My name is Charles Parisi, CEO of Cloudcast Media. We're bringing two podcasts together, kind of a little bit of mishmash of Drew Schlossberg's Spotlight on the Community, which is brought to you by Mission Fed Federal Credit Union, and Mission San Diego Military, which is brought to you in conjunction with the San Diego Military Advisory Council and sponsored by San Diego's one of their most prominent educators, the American Military University, #1 military educational institution in the United States. And I'm here co-hosting the special episode on the USS Midway is my co-host Noah Brady from Cloudcast. Hi Noah, how are you?
Good, how are you?
What a spectacular day, huh?
Oh, it's so beautiful
And talk about being on the Midway for a really, really important reason. But hey, to talk about that reason, we have two special guests. One I've known for quite a while now. He's a regular on Cloudcast Media. So happy to introduce Neil O'Connell, the Executive Director of the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial. Neil, nice to see you here in the Midway.
Good to see you again, Charles. This is really pretty special for a Wednesday afternoon right on the ocean here.
No question, and you're always supporting the right causes and you always show up, and that's important.
Thank you.
Hey, joined here today as well, 12-year Navy veteran, now with Turn Behavioral Health, one of the leading providers of mental health services in the state of California, including to the veterans community through an amazing program called Courage to Call. Christina Pineda, welcome to our joint podcast show.
Yes, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. Is this your very first podcast?
It is, yes.
Well, you're already off to a great start. You're smiling. You're here in the Midway. It's beautiful. So, Neil, let me start with you, because you know everything that happens in the military community in San Diego. You're a military leader. You now run an incredible organization that celebrates our veterans up there at Mount Soledad. Why is it important for you to be here today?
Well, first of all, the invitation to join ranks with the rest of our veteran community, our business leaders, our community leaders, wonderful organizations that do good in this community, which, by the way, is the largest concentration of veterans in the United States of America. For me to be asked to partake of this event, I wouldn't miss it. This is so important to our community. Secondly, to the individual retirees and servicemen and women who, whether they retired, did a full year, 20 years to get a pension, or they just left, whether it was medically or just decided, hey, after raising a family, being here for 5 or 6, 8, 9 years, we love it here. I'd rather not go back to Wisconsin or Chicago. I want to stay right here in San Diego. But most importantly is the advocacy and the leadership of the San Diego Military Advisory Council, partnering with Senator Archuleta and Treasurer Ma. This is probably the strongest amount of leverage that I've seen, and traction, I should say, in many years. And we're hoping that this was really considered. It would certainly be an economic driver locally for us not to be taxed on our retirement, as well as for those servicemen and women that aren't receiving a military retirement. There's also the connection that we have as a senior Marine to literally still to our junior servicemen and women.
Yeah,
not to put it in the wrong context, but listen, we're going to hire veterans for 24 years. There's such a great edge in their capability.
Yeah, there's no question. And I'll tell you, Christina, maybe you can address this a little bit too, because you're retired. How much did you love staying here in San Diego, and now you're working for Turn? How important is it to keep veterans here and enjoy California?
It is absolutely important. Originally, I'm from Texas.
Okay.
And I can say that I've lived here in San Diego longer than I lived in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to kind of speak to what you were saying was, I think it's important to keep the veterans here in general, retired or not, because of what they can bring to the community.
Right.
They bring leadership, they bring skill. Here at the press conference, they talked a lot about technical skills, but there's so much more like leadership skills that are brought to the community. And of course the economic growth of California, of San Diego, is just one piece of it. But having the veterans in our community leading from the front, coaching our kids, running programs, I think is extremely...
You're speaking near and dear to my heart. No, this was the conversation we were having as a sidebar before we started recording. And maybe, Noah, you think about it, and maybe Neil and Christina, you can comment on this, because you just hit on something really important that's not addressed in some of the metrics when we talk about what is it costing us to give this, quote, tax exemption. I think that's a short-sighted perspective, personally, because here's what I know, and Neil, you know this from your own nonprofit: volunteerism. The hours that the military community donates and leads and supports the local communities, Mount Soledad, USS Midway. When you take a military family out of California, the community impact, forget about the income taxes and all those things, that has real tremendous value to nonprofits. Neil, how important are volunteers to your organization?
Vitally important. And if I could just go back to about 7 o'clock this morning up at the beautiful memorial, we held our 5th annual Women's History Tribute, honoring an amazing lady here, Greta Hamilton. And being a nonprofit, we have a very small team. We have 5 employees. Well, I had about 16 volunteers there with me, building this ceremony, doing all the things that you would expect without any ask.
16 people. How many hours were they there?
They were there 7 hours.
7 hours each. Okay, so that's over 100 hours of volunteer. And even at $20 an hour, they saved you $2,000 today. That's economic impact.
We couldn't do what we do at the memorial and the community outreach programs that we manage and engage with with the community without folks like this.
Yeah, and I'm sure you see this in your organization.
All the time. Same as your organization, we are a very small team. We run a food distribution, a market, the second and fourth Saturdays of every month. And usually there's only 2 employees working those markets. The rest volunteers. And many of them are veterans, family members of veterans, if not all of them.
Yeah, it's so important. By the way, so my name is Charles Parisi, Cloudcast Media, filling in for David Boone on the Mission San Diego Military Show and filling in for Drew Schlossberg on the Spotlight in the Community Show. We're doing a very special episode here in the USS Midway talking about keeping veterans in the state of California, specifically SB 1407. But I think it's so much bigger than numbers. No, any thoughts from your perspective as a young Californian?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all of our first questions when we see a bill like this come in, when we're talking about, tax breaks or increasing taxes, whatever it is, you hear the word tax and you're like, what is this going to cost me? And what is it going to cost the community as a whole? And I've been lucky enough to be able to vote in the last 2 election cycles, and so I'm a young voter, and this is something that's super prominent on my mind, is where's my money going and how is my money being used? And when I think about it, I think about the veterans who serve our country and they work for our country. My tax dollars go into paying their salaries, and they should. That's where they should go, as well as their tax dollars going into paying their salaries and paying their pensions. And so what is the cost on all of us? I don't think that it's quite as black and white as maybe just what is the exact financial cost of this tax break, how much revenue are we losing, but what are also the values? What are we getting back financially? Are we getting back, we're getting back more economy, like being centralized in California, more dollars being spent in California, like we talked about sales tax, and they're keeping their families here, as we were talking about on our last guest. I think the cost to value breakdown is so much more complicated. And as we're just talking about, I think it's
you're
lost on people. Maybe
you're right. No, it's important because that's the other element of this that Neil and Christina, I don't think they talk about enough. It's the multi-generational impact. For example, let me give a personal example. My daughter was educated K through 12 in the city of San Diego. She left for college. The math is once your child leaves their birth state, they don't typically come back. Now she's doing very, very well income-wise, and those dollars are never going to accrue to California or San Diego, but she left. So the key here is it's when a military veteran leaves, their spouse leaves, that's another income in all likelihood, assets leave, and then the children and potentially grandchildren. You have to look down the road. It's the multi-generational families that you're losing once the first one leaves the state. There's a good chance they're not coming back. Any thoughts, Neil?
No, spot on, Charles. Honestly, when you think about that, when I retired in 2012, my children were all pretty young. They were in high school, and one was off to college, and it's expensive. It was expensive then. And there's also this big gap that takes place when you leave the service. You're doing everything that you can. It doesn't matter how many years you serve. You're doing everything you can to stay stabilized. By that I mean keep the roof over your head, keep the car payment intact, get out there and get a job. Maybe the spouse is a dual household, military family, husband and wife serving. Maybe the husband's got a few more years in the military, and the spouse decides to leave to raise children and try to get a balance and quality of life. There's an extremely stressful situation that takes place when it comes to making a decision whether I stay here or do I go back to Arkansas or Texas or somewhere where I might be able to get a little more bang for my buck. We know the cost of living here in our communities, it's exorbitant. But why do we stay?
Yeah.
And I think that, that's exactly the point, is that while this is a financial and economical issue, it's much more a quality of life issue, and how can we make the quality of life for our veterans better?
And when you talk about quality of life, when you talk about who do you want to retain in the community? We retain everyone, but boy, oh boy, the citizenship, the leadership, the public servant mentality, the veterans are not the folks that California should ever want to see leave.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts, Christina?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there is definitely monetary value to keeping veterans here, right? Keep the economy going, the generational effect, right? But the looking at the whole picture, the value of them staying, right? They're the people who are neighbors, like they spoke to,
That's right?
Military service members, veterans, we join with the mentality to serve communities, to give back. People say thank you for your service all the time, right? Yeah. And while I appreciate that, it was a pleasure to serve, and you take that with you far after you've been out of the military and you want to continue to serve. And we don't look at. I'll speak for myself, right? I'm a therapist by trade. I run a program. We don't jump into it for the money. In fact, I just met a gentleman this week. He's about to get out of the Navy. He's a lieutenant in the Navy, and he wants to come work for Courage to Call. I said, man, let me tell you, you're probably going to make way less coming into a nonprofit. And he said, it's not about the money. It's about what I want to do. And every Courage to Call, we are fully staffed by veterans, and every member who serves on my team are not here for the money. They're here to show up for their community, and that's what you get when you keep veterans in California. They show up for their community.
Yeah. We should give them a community to show up for.
Yep.
Yeah, well said, Noah. Okay, so listen, we've been wonderful special episode here to support San Diego Military Advisory Council and their CEO, who's done a phenomenal job on leading on this issue, Admiral David Boone. My name is Charles Parisi with Cloudcast Media, kind of doing a fusion, mix-up, mash-up, spotlight in the community, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and Mission San Diego Military, brought to you by the American Military University. And by the way, the audience, we were getting ready to sign up, but wait a second, the CEO himself just walked up. I'm not sure if he's ready to sit down or not. Admiral Boone, are you ready to sit down?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and someone's going to have to give it the microphone because we are now about to be joined by the CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council. It looks like Neil O'Connell, Executive Director of the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial, has agreed to give up his seat at the microphone. So we're going to be joined here very shortly by the CEO of the San Diego Military Advisory Council and the normal co-host of Mission San Diego Military. He's going to be sitting down in just 1 second. Neil, thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure. And what an unbelievable opportunity here. What you do with your organization, Christine, absolutely a bedrock service to our community.
And I'm glad the two of you are meeting because we call it Connectivity Capital, how humans can meet on our shows. You want to know about Courage to Call, and you definitely want to know Neil.
Oh, we definitely are familiar with Neil. In fact, I had some team members out there at Mount Soledad with you today.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we didn't actually connect you, but we're going to take credit for it anyways.
Oh,
So we're happy. So Christina, you stay right there, and then David Boone, the CEO of SD Max, is going to sit down. So Noah, thank you so much, Neil. So Noah, I'll tell you, it's so much as you peel back the onion on this issue of the power and the purpose of retaining veterans in the state of California. You know, it's just incredible. Now we're going to learn a little bit more by the gentleman who's probably done more than any other individual to lead on this issue called SB 1407. We are now joined on his very own show. We got a little mix-up show here today. Mission San Diego Military is normally co-hosted by David Boone, the CEO of SD Mac, and Drew Schlossberg, who also hosts the Spotlight in the Community show. So we're bringing them both together because it's that important of an issue. David, welcome to your own show.
Oh, it's great to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us take over today.
And I also have Noah Brady from Cloudcast Media
Yeah, hi,
here.
Noah.
And Noah's actually going to be hosting his own show on Cloudcast on music,
Okay.
the music scene in San Diego.
Okay.
That's right, called Garage Band San Diego on Cloudcast Media only.
Yeah. So David, incredible turnout, incredible leadership on this very, very important issue. And let me have you immediately jump in on something we were chatting about that I think is not spoken about enough in terms of, you know, one of the questions I know that came was about what's the cost? What's the cost? I think it's about what should we invest in veterans to keep them contributing their tremendous social capital, financial capital, cultural capital to the state of California. Let's talk volunteerism, because the military community, the amount of hours that they put into serving the community, serving nonprofits, volunteering for the SD Max of the world and the US Midways. Can you talk about that extraction, what we lose when we lose this incredible community that serves?
Yeah, there's so many layers to a military veteran. And most veterans, when they retire, you know, they came in when they were in their 20s, and so if they retire after 20 years, they're in their 40s. So, you know, they have a full career yet ahead of them, right? And so that opportunity to grow and work in our community in a second career, whatever that is, and they bring so many soft skill sets. And that's the hard part about quantifying their value, because so much of today is demanding through resumes actual work experience in specific sectors of business, and they don't account for the soft skill sets of leadership, innovation, creativity, intuitiveness, all those soft skill sets that really, whether it's a single person business or part of a large corporation, they're of enormous value. And then you get beyond the work environment, as you say, they are usually our Boy Scout leaders, our sports team, you know, dads coaching soccer. They are contributing to nonprofits. All my nonprofit partners utilize veteran volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the interesting things about veterans is they're the first to raise their hand. They find satisfaction in serving. That's their comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's a disaster, who's there, right? And it's the veterans in the community that usually mobilize others. It looks like I need to say goodbye to Senator here.
No problem. So, while David will be right back, he's saying so long to the senator that helped make this happen. That must make you feel so good to hear those words.
It really does. It does. I will say I don't think the veterans hear it enough in the communities, and I think this initiative is letting our San Diego veterans know that we're here for you. We value you.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. So, have you had a chance to meet Admiral Boone, the CEO of SDMAC, before?
I have not.
You have not. Well, it's again 12-year Navy veteran, David. Christina Pineda. She runs the Courage to Call program for Turned Behavioral Health.
Yeah.
So, and she was mentioning earlier, and by the way, Neil mentioned his event this morning was about 100 man hours.
Yeah.
That saved him a few $1,000s.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it multiplied by all the nonprofits. And you mentioned your organization have staffed by veterans.
Yeah, we're fully staffed by veterans and their family members. And then we also run a food market the second and fourth Saturdays of every month that is mostly ran by volunteers. We have a couple staff that come out, 1 to 2 staff members, but it wouldn't be possible without our volunteers.
And this is why, David, to your point, you can't quantify everything in life. There's a qualification element. Who in any neighborhood, who isn't happy to live next to a veteran or like a police officer?
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
front lines public servants, they're the fabric of a community, and you can't simply quantify everything. It's that level of citizenship, small c, that they bring to a community and the culture, and the impact is tremendous. So, Christina, thank you for all that you do for Courage to Call, and make sure you keep running a phenomenal program, because it's really, really important what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And again, supporting that military community. We want to keep them here. David, before we close this special episode and they kick us off the USS Midway, any closing thoughts on SB 1407 or anything that's on your mind? Because after all, this is your show.
Well, we had a great event today, but it's only the start. It's the beginning. As you know, any state bill has to go through a number of committees through the legislature. The next one is April 8th. I'm flying up on the 7th. I testify in the morning of the 8th for the Rev and Tax Committee. So every step along the way, we're going to be bird dogging this. But what we need from the public is support, letters of support, or call your district assembly person or senator, because I've had legislators in Sacramento put their finger in my chest and say, every time we have a veteran bill, you guys don't show up. And okay, we're going to change that. And today was the beginning of changing that, right? We're going to show up in a big way. And so for the public, I need you to express a letter of support or call your local representative. And you don't have to be a veteran or a military person to do it. The community benefits writ large. Some of our community partners that came here today aren't veterans.
Right.
They're businesses that benefit from veterans. They're universities that benefit from veterans. So we're looking for broad community support. And so if the audience would provide that communication to Sacramento, that'll go a long ways.
Yeah, well, and then Noah, for those of us who have not served, that would be me. It's the least that we can do is show up and write, email, post on social media how much we care about this issue. It's the least that we can do, because we know everything the military's done for us. So, Christina, any final thoughts?
No, it's been great. Thank you for having me. This is a very important discussion to be had. I think it needs to be had in multiple platforms as well. I think that it is a major topic and it's like we talked about. It's not just monetary value. It's overall value to our communities and keeping the veterans here in San Diego.
Perfect. Well said. My name is Charles Parisi, Cloudcast Media. I'm going to officially sign off on 2 shows, a little mix-up, mash-up, fusion of Spotlight on the Community, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and Mission San Diego Military, with San Diego Military Advisory Council and American Military University. We hope you've enjoyed this very special recordings here at the USS Midway, brought to you by San Diego Military Advisory Council and their CEO, David Boone, in support of SB 1407. Keep it simple. Veterans need to stay in the state of California. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlossberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.